Okay, so welcome Mary Bradley. Mary is from Loretto Secondary School up in Letterkenny, and Mary's brand is One Good Hour. And I am thrilled that Mary is going to be joining me for the 6-week study boost. And Mary is going to be running the Anxious to Awesome program, and it's going to be awesome. So, Mary, welcome.
Thank you.
Quick question, I suppose. You're big into well-being and mindfulness and just the whole area of wellness. How did you get involved in this?
I guess I started meditating, I suppose, when I was in my early 20s. I'm in my early 30s now. So I've been meditating for a long time, and then I just started to become like really interested in the benefits and like how I could bring that to other people. So I went and did some training myself, and then it kind of opened up lots of avenues of learning then. So I looked into life coaching and breath work and more into mindfulness as well. So that kind of just to start meditating was my kind of step into this whole world of well-being, and it's been brilliant. And I just love, there's like every day there's more research and information coming out, and I just love soaking it all up. It's brilliant.
And obviously, you're on the ground. You work with teenagers, adolescents,
Yeah.
secondary school students, specifically girls in your school all the time. And the dynamic of teenagers has changed a lot in the last couple of years. So what do you see on the ground? How does, the stress and anxiety that you meet on a day-to-day basis, what does that actually look like in practical terms?
Well, I suppose in an academic setting in school, whenever you are feeling anxious or stressed, it can be really, really hard to concentrate, can be really hard to focus on anything that's going on around you. And it's really hard to learn anything new when you are in that state of feeling stressed and anxious. So the ideal time to learn anything new or to sit a test is whenever you are feeling calm and relaxed. And I think the last couple of years have really put people to the test, especially teenagers. Like so many teenagers up to third year now, they have kind of had their whole secondary school experience has been through COVID time. So it's been tough in that respect. But I feel that if you can sort of find ways that you can practice yourself, easy, practical things that you can do to sort of settle and de excite your nervous system on a day to day basis. And they can be really discreet little things that you could do, even sitting in the car or whatever. If you are in that calm and relaxed place, you are going to be so much better able to learn and absorb information and then perform well in exams and things like that.
Have you any, I suppose, tips or advice for parents of, boys and girls around the country who are very anxious and stressed about going back to school this week? And, absenteeism is a big issue going into school, and a lot of them really struggle to just even go into school anymore. And there's going to be a lot of resistance and stressed teenagers this week. Any advice for parents?
Um, I suppose my advice would be just to like acknowledge and really validate what they're going through, because I suppose like as adults we're able to see the bigger picture and be able to like we're able to see that like this is in the grand scheme of things that maybe this isn't that big of a deal, but when you're experiencing that, it is a big deal and it can really like paralyze lots of different parts of you. So validating and acknowledging any of the stress or anxiety that they're feeling, I think is a big one. And just yeah, that will kind of be my main advice. Like all the other things as well, like sleep is so important, and just like taking care of your body, and you can do that through lots of different things, like drinking lots of water, breath work, doing a little bit of movement, whatever suits them. But yeah, I think for the first couple of weeks I would just tend to go easy on them.
Get them into a good routine. And that's what I
Yeah,
talk a lot in my seminars, is building that morning habit is a big, big, big one.
morning, yeah.
Procrastination is a big challenge for teenagers, putting things off, and parents obviously having to nag them to get the homework done and the study done. What is procrastination? Where does that come from? And why do they, put it off so much?
Well, I always feel that procrastination is like the fear of failure, that we put something off because we feel like we're not going to be able to do it, or we're not going to be able to do it well enough, or quickly enough, or to the standard that it needs to be done. So sometimes something being done is better than it being done absolutely or absolutely perfectly. So sometimes, just rattling out whatever bit of homework that you need to do, just get it done instead of, getting into that thing where you're putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. And it's Sunday night, it's 12 o'clock, and you have a 5-page essay to write. So it's kind of like, it's that thing of like, if you're afraid, like just do it anyway, feel the fear and do it anyway, even if it's going to be a crap essay, just do it.
Yeah, and one of the guys I love is Tim Ferriss, and he talks about writing, and his goal is to write 2 crappy pages per day.
That's it.
The goal.
Yeah.
And out of that, it gets better. So you talked about perfectionism. That's another big one. Specifically, I see this a lot with girls.
Yeah.
A lot of stress around that. What's going on there?
I think it's a huge pressure that, I don't want to blame social media for all of this, but I think that like perfectionism is, that's the world that we open whenever we open our Instagram. Everything, we're seeing the perfect moments from everybody's life. And that's like, I know it's, we're not seeing people's perfect essays, but it's that sense of, you're only showing off what's perfect. You're only seeing what's perfect in somebody's life. And it's that like everybody has handed up, bits of work that haven't been amazing, but they've been done and you've learned from them. So like, even if something isn't perfect, it's still always a learning opportunity. You're better to make all those mistakes now, to hand up those imperfect pieces of work before you come around to your exam, instead of not handing it up at all. So you hand up an essay and the teacher has, okay, you did this well, this wasn't so good, this is how you can improve for next time. That's amazing, incredible feedback to have. So it's better to hand up an imperfect piece than hand up nothing. From a teacher point of view anyway.
Yeah, and I do a lot of counseling as well with students, and I know from my own training within counseling, often perfectionism, it comes back to this, belief that, it's not good enough, I'm not good enough, this good enoughness, if that makes sense. So it's,
yeah,
what I try to do with students is kind of dial that down, that, what is good enough, and what, instead of everything is not good enough. So it's a big one, isn't it? It really is. And then the other big one then is body image, which is a big challenge for girls and boys. Again, I think social media is a big part to play in that. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so like one of the philosophies that I try to live by is that my body is an instrument, not an ornament. So that I try to focus on what my body does for me as opposed to what my body looks like. So it's shifting that, because that's what body image is. It's all the focus is on what your body looks like. Whereas if you bring your focus back to like being grateful for all of the things that your body does for you on a day-to-day basis to keep you going, move you through life, that like what you look like has very little to do with that. And also I always try to think that I try to think of all the people that are really important in my life, and I'll write down maybe all of the qualities that I like in them. And none of the qualities that I write down have anything to do with what that person looks like or what their body is like. And I think that's what we need to bring ourselves back to, is I think there's so much talk about what our bodies look like, and the focus really should be brought back to now on just like what our bodies do, that they are just moving, they're just here to get us through life. They're not here to like look good. Like our focus is to move and learn, and like your brain does such magical things, your hands, everything. And it's really, we do ourselves a discredit, I think, whenever we value our bodies on what they look like.
Yeah, and for boys and girls, it's obviously, and we're all part of this. I mean, we're all part of this, industry, which is
Yes.
the makeup industry, the fitness industry, all of this. 10,000 messages a day the average teenager gets, the average person. So for some form of advertising, and we're all told this is the way you should be, this is the way you should look. So, and I think for a teen today, whereas, you know, maybe when you or I were going through the school system, I always talk about your five, you know, the five people you spend most of your time with, you hang around with, you compared yourself with them, and that was kind of it. Whereas I think nowadays, you know, you want Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat, and you're comparing yourself with everybody all over the world. And that's big for teenagers today. And I think it's part of their anxiety. Why, and you know, for some people they go, God, I'm tired of that word anxiety. Why do you think teenagers are so anxious today?
That's a tough one. I'm not sure why that, like, I think they have a lot to contend with, and I think the world changes so quickly now compared to like maybe when I was a teenager. Like Bebo started and it was, you know, it took off very quite slowly, and then but with and you know, you got on for maybe 20 minutes in the evening, and then it was your sister's turn 20 minutes. Whereas now it's just in their hand all the time, and it's this constant bombarding of like messages, some of them good, some of them not so good. And they maybe don't like whenever they're relaxing as well, that's what they're doing. So it's like they have no real turn off moment where they're just being, where they're just sort of tuning into themselves. And I also like, I just think, my heart goes out to the teenagers now, because COVID has been such a tough time. And like when you're a teenager, that's when you're really building, you know, like kind of strong relationships. You're building, you know, you're learning who you are, you're learning what your values are, what you're about. And a lot of that, you know, you have to learn out in the world, and the world has kind of been closed the past 2 years. So that's really tough as well, I think. But it's it's a tricky one to try and put your finger on.
Oh, look, it's a
Yeah.
perfect storm, I think, of
Yeah.
social media and, you know, the COVID, and then the world changing so fast. And we live in a world now with bad news all the time. And, you know, a lot of things are conspiring at the same time. We're working together on the Anxious to Awesome program. Very excited about this. We're starting
Yes.
September 5th. And I'm just thrilled that, you know, you're coming on board, and obviously you've got all your skills and expertise and the mindfulness. For some students out there that are thinking, will I do this? Won't I do this? You know, it's for moms and dads. They have to sometimes convince their sons and daughters, you know, to do. It's only half an hour. It's for 6 weeks. Why would a young person plug in over the next 6 weeks to the Anxious to Awesome program? What type of tools, what type of skills will they learn, and how will it help them?
So the tools that I hope to share are probably things that really I wish I had known when I was that age. And you know, that I've only kind of, you know, come in contact with over the last couple of years. But they, like, first of all, let's acknowledge that like so many teenagers are having a really tough time at the minute, and if they can give themselves half an hour where they're tuning out of everything else that's going on around them. So what I'll probably do is maybe talk for about 10 minutes about, you know, whatever the topic is that week, a little bit of education around that. And then I just want to invite them into like a lovely practice where they can tune out of everything going on around them, tune in with themselves, and whatever we do in that moment, it will be really easy and practical. And, you know, if they've never done anything like this before, that's perfect. This is like a beautiful opportunity to step into this world, but also it'll be so easy and practical. It'll be things that they can bring to their day-to-day life outside of the Anxious to Awesome program, and probably tools that they'll use their whole lives.
So in effect, you're teaching them tools to manage that anxiety, to be able to tune out of all that busyness, so that, you know, they're more in touch with themselves and they're less
Yeah.
anxious. That's why I call it
Yeah.
Anxious to Awesome, because if you're feeling less anxious, at least you can feel better about yourself and you can be more present. So thanks for that, Mary. And we're really looking forward to it. Thank you for your time today. And for any students, any parents out there, we'll be sending out some more information. It's the Anxious to Awesome program. It's part of Study Boost, starting September 5th, and that runs from September 5th for 6 weeks. Thank you.